Welcome to Deep Dive Patristics, where two AI personalities tackle deep Orthodox Christian topics with clarity and precision. Let's dive in.
All right. So you ready to dive into this?
Oh, absolutely. Always ready for a good deep dive.
Awesome. Because this one, it's pretty fascinating. You know, we've got all these writings by and about Evagrios the Solitary, right?
Yeah.
This early Christian monk.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think what he's got to say about finding peace,
Mm-hmm.
like real inner peace,
Mm-hmm.
is surprisingly relevant
Oh, yeah.
even today.
You're absolutely right. I mean, even though we're talking about a guy from the 4th century, his insights, they're just so timely, you know?
He really seems to have this knack for cutting through all the noise
Yeah.
and just getting to the heart of what matters.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into all that advice, let's set the scene a little bit.
Right.
Okay? Evagrios. He wasn't just some random hermit.
Oh, no, not at all.
Like, he was born in 345, 346 AD, something like that. And get this, he was a disciple of the Cappadocian Fathers.
The Cappadocian Fathers. Now we're talking about some heavy hitters, right?
Yeah.
The philosophical and theological giants of their time. Basil the Great, Gregory of Nazianzus, Gregory of Nyssa. Like, these guys, they shaped Christian doctrine in a major way.
So Evagrios was literally learning from the best.
Absolutely. Front row seat to some of the most brilliant minds of the era.
But here's where it gets really interesting, okay? So he's got all this amazing education, right?
Yeah.
Rubbing shoulders with these incredible thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
But then he decides to leave it all behind.
Wow.
Heads to Egypt in 383 to become a desert hermit. Talk about a major life change.
It's just fascinating, right? You've got this blend of, like, deep intellectual background, Indy, and then the actual lived experience of somebody who really committed to solitude. That's what makes his writing so unique.
Yeah, it's like he's giving us this backstage pass
Yeah.
to how the mind and the soul work. You know?
Exactly. And, you know, one of the things that you highlighted in your notes was his emphasis on this idea of stillness.
Okay, stillness. I mean, yeah, obviously for a monk, a desert hermit, big on quiet, right?
Sure.
But how does it even apply to us today?
Well, that's the thing. See, Evagrios, he wasn't just talking about, you know, literal silence, no noise around. He was talking about this inner state of peace.
Okay.
Right? Where your mind, it's free from all these distractions pulling at you, and your will is actually in harmony with God's will.
Okay, that sounds, well, honestly, a little difficult to achieve in our world, right?
Yeah.
It's like constant notifications, 24/7 news cycle.
You're telling me? And honestly, I think that's exactly why it's more relevant now than ever, you know?
Yeah.
Evagrios, I think he'd say that amidst all this chaos, all this stimulation, that's modern life, finding that inner stillness. That's like discovering a superpower.
Wow, superpower. Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's the key to clarity, wisdom, peace, like true peace.
So, all right, superpower, but how do we even start?
Right.
Like, how do we cultivate that? Does he actually give us any practical guidance?
He does, and some of it, I gotta warn you, might surprise you a bit.
Okay, hit me.
So, for example, he was a huge AE advocate for, like, minimizing distractions. I mean, to a pretty intense degree. He even advised against, get this, having servants.
What? No servants?
Yeah, he said they could be a distraction.
Wow. I mean, I guess for us, that translates to maybe saying no a little more often.
Yeah, exactly.
Simplifying our commitments.
That's it.
Maybe putting the phone on silent a little more frequent.
You're getting it. It's all about, like, consciously choosing what we allow into our mental space, you know? And he also talked about the importance of choosing your company wisely.
Right.
He actually said to limit your time with what he called materially minded people.
Ouch. What did he even mean by that?
Well, he basically believed that people who are, like, super focused on possessions, status, external achievements, all that, they can pull us away from that inner focus, from the pursuit of that true stillness he was talking about.
Yeah, so basically surround yourself with people who lift you up, not drag you down.
Right. You got it.
Okay. And I think this next one, especially for you, as someone who loves to learn, I think you're going to find this fascinating. Evagrios, he actually warned that even your physical surroundings can become distractions.
Really?
Yeah. He said if you're, like, too attached to your living space, your cell, as he called it, you should move.
He told people to just up and move. Wow. That's pretty radical, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Like, most of us aren't going to pack up and move just because we have a cozy apartment.
Right.
But I get the point, you know?
Yeah.
It's about constantly examining our attachments.
Absolutely.
To, physical things, digital distractions, thought patterns even.
It's about that freedom, right? Choosing freedom over attachment.
Exactly. Anything that keeps us from that deeper state of stillness.
And speaking of challenging our attachments, Evagrios had a lot to say about another practice that can really push us out of our comfort zones.
Oh, man, what's that? Fasting. Okay, now that's something I figured would be, like, mandatory for a desert monk.
Right. You'd think so. But you know what's interesting is Evagrios didn't actually see it as like a rigid rule.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, he actually emphasized that fasting should be approached with wisdom.
Okay.
And adapted to each person's individual needs, especially their health.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But don't get me wrong, he was definitely a proponent of the practice.
Yeah, well, I mean, picture it, right? There weren't exactly any drive thrusts in the Egyptian desert back then.
Right, exactly. But even beyond that, I mean, for Evagrios, fasting, it wasn't just about giving up food.
Okay. So what was it about then?
Well, for him, it was about so much more. Like, he saw it as a way to, as he put it, purge iniquities.
Okay.
And exalt the soul.
Wow, those are some pretty powerful words.
Right. It was about purifying the mind, the spirit, creating the space for spiritual growth, for a deeper connection with the divine.
Yeah, he even talks about how it sanctifies the mind and drives away the demons.
Right. I mean, he believed that by, voluntarily embracing discomfort and self-discipline, right? We actually weaken our attachment to all those worldly desires.
Okay.
And strengthen our connection to something higher.
So less about deprivation, more about, inner strength, willpower.
That's exactly it.
Okay, but that's got to be hard, right? To give up something you enjoy.
Of course.
Yeah.
But here's what's fascinating, right? This whole concept of fasting, we can apply it to our modern lives, too.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. What kind of modern-day fasting are we talking about here?
Well, think about something like a digital detox, for example.
Okay.
Consciously disconnecting from social media, news, entertainment, all that, for a period of time.
Yeah.
That can be like a form of fasting in the digital age.
That's a really interesting way to think about it.
Right. Instead of giving up food, we're giving up this constant stream of information, all the stimulation that just surrounds us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bet Evagrios would have a lot to say about those smartphones, wouldn't he?
Oh, I think he'd definitely have some thoughts. He might even suggest we, move away from them for a while, just like he said about our physical dwellings.
Right. But in all seriousness, when you think about it, the potential benefits of a digital fast, they're pretty amazing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Breaking free from those addictive patterns, reducing anxiety, creating space for deeper reflection, connection.
Yeah. It's almost like hitting the reset button on our minds.
Exactly. Giving ourselves a chance to experience a different way of being.
Okay. So we've got stillness, we've got fasting, two pretty powerful concepts. But, Evagrios wasn't just about, peace and tranquility.
Right. There's more to it.
He also understood the importance of confronting those darker aspects of human nature.
Absolutely.
And the reality of the world. Some of his writings, they get pretty intense, right?
Oh, they do.
He actually encourages people to vividly picture both heaven and hell.
I know, right? That's a pretty intense visual.
Yeah. Why would he, tell people to dwell on that?
Well, it might seem extreme to us now, but it was actually pretty common back then in early Christian thought.
Okay.
This idea of deliberately contemplating both the ultimate reward and the ultimate consequence. It was meant to motivate people,
So a cosmic carrot and stick, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it also shows us something important about Evagrios. He wasn't just offering some feel-good, fluffy spirituality. He understood that real spiritual growth, it requires us to confront some hard truths.
Yeah.
About ourselves, about the world around us. He wanted people to take this journey seriously.
It makes you wonder if maybe we've gotten a little too soft in our modern approach to personal growth and spirituality.
It's a good question. I mean, have we lost sight of that deeper sense of purpose, of consequence?
Evagrios was pointing to that, right?
Yeah, he was. And that's something each of us has to grapple with. But engaging with his work, I think, it helps us reclaim that depth, that seriousness. It helps us start asking those bigger questions.
Speaking of big questions, I remember Evagrios had this particular challenge that he would give people, like a litmus test for evaluating everything in life.
You're thinking about using stillness as the criterion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That one really struck me. It's like he's saying, okay, before you invest your time, your energy, your attention in anything, ask yourself, does this bring me closer to that state of inner stillness?
And that's such a powerful question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It helps us see what's truly valuable and what's just a distraction.
A compass, right.
Exactly. Guiding us towards a more meaningful life.
And with that thought in mind, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. Man, what a journey, huh?
It really is, isn't it?
We started with like a desert monk from the 4th century.
Yeah.
And somehow ended up with like a challenge that feels so incredibly relevant even today.
It really is amazing how Evagrios, he lived in a totally different world.
Right.
But his insights about just being human, the struggles we all have with distractions, and that yearning for peace, it's just timeless,
I'll be honest. At first, I was a little skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
A desert hermit.
Yeah.
What can he possibly have to teach us about navigating,
right.
like modern life, right?
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I'm genuinely surprised by how much his ideas they click,
I think a lot of people, they have that initial reaction.
Yeah.
But once you really dive into his work, you realize that his wisdom, it cuts through all the centuries and it speaks to something deep inside us,
Yeah.
That longing for stillness, for meaning, for connection with something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. And he's not giving us some easy answers
right.
or quick fixes.
No magic bullet.
No magic bullet. But it's like he's offering a path.
Yeah.
A way to approach life just with more intention.
Yeah.
More awareness. A deeper understanding of what actually matters.
It's definitely a challenging path, though.
Oh, yeah.
Requires discipline, self-reflection, and honestly, a willingness to really confront our own attachments and distractions.
And those can be tough to face.
Yeah, but it's also a path that can lead to such incredible peace and fulfillment.
Yeah. It's like he reminds us that real peace, it's not something you just find out there.
Yeah.
In like external circumstances or whatever.
It doesn't just happen to you.
No, it's something we got to cultivate inside through the choices we make, the thoughts we allow in our mind.
Yeah. And how we engage with, everything around us.
Yeah, exactly. And remember that image he used?
Oh, yeah.
Make stillness your criterion.
Right.
So simple, but so powerful.
I think that's what's so great about these deep dives, We get to explore these ideas, these ancient traditions, and we see how they can still be so relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today.
Yeah, guiding us to be more mindful, just live a more meaningful life.
It's like we're having a conversation across the centuries, learning from these people who, walk this path before us and sharing their insights with you, our listener.
Exactly.
So we leave you with Evagrios' challenge, an invitation to really explore that power of stillness in your own life. Just as you go through your day, your week, your year, remember to pause, breathe, and ask yourself that question. What brings me closer to that state of peace, that focus, alignment?
Let that question be your guide, your compass.
Your inspiration.
Yeah. As you navigate this crazy modern life.
It's a lot out there.
It is. But who knows? Maybe this will spark your own WN deep dive into, the wisdom of the ages. Thanks for joining us.